Tendea.
Sina sauti.
Sina imani na wewe hapa. Wacha leo nikuambie ukweli.
Mulamwase ino kaja kakana no mwana huungira. Na mukisha lulwa yeti wewe ndio unakuja kusoma hapa kuleta maendeleo. Omwana oli wakobola akola mpapa adimai kumurwe hola siro mwana syo. Kafu.
Omusakulu owo nyo warera nano malalamishi waliwe wakomboe bandu bacha bamupa abene nyesa wenge na abene bano bichira no basi
wewe kuendelea kunyanyasa huyu mama no mupimira byakulya saa yote mubifuria so ho wenye engile mujikoni ateheta kubela sina
no byayire no mwenya kulya
singisa baholanga baryota
kangali chifu ndenyanga umbole bungali omukazi wewe onyala wampimira bulisindu mujikoni tenya kose bulili yongene lakini bakole bali niyo pima bale ndine ndahakiza kuteka mujikoni kumyaka 40.
West TV, tazama ilivyo.
Good morning, dear viewer. This is the Morning Scoop. We're coming to you live from Bungoma. The Morning Scoop always comes to you live every Tuesday morning, and we talk about various issues. And this morning we are looking at growing the economy of Western Kenya. How are we supposed to work, and what areas do we need to look into? But then we also have economic drivers of the region. We are agri-based generally, and being agri-based, it also means most of our technology is around there. Today, we want to look at the retail aspect of economic drivers of the region. In the whole region, we have markets that we sell our agri-produce. And they also attract various wares and goods from that are not agri-based. Then in the mix, we also have contraband goods. All those contribute to the shilling that circulates in the region. So today, we just want to look at the impact of all that and what it means to the whole community, and how do we ensure that these people who are working and trading in those small markets and big markets in various spaces are getting the right shilling. Let me just bring the guest this morning, my brother Richard. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Yeah, morning viewers.
It's been like ages.
It's been ages. We are trying to grapple with the economy that you are mentioning.
Yes.
It's been difficult for everybody.
Yes.
And even us, we are wondering, is it a regional problem? Is it a national problem, or is it an international problem?
Yes.
But essentially, it's just a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that you need to look at is when we first began, there is that which we followed. You see, we followed those who went ahead of us, right? So because they went ahead of us, they were able to establish themselves and establish the infrastructure that we are following today.
Right.
That's why we have the markets the way they look.
Right.
We found them that way.
Right.
That a market must look like this.
Right.
That this is how we should be able to display our products.
Right.
Just before we go into the conversation,
right.
Speak into that.
Right. Yeah, you know, in market economy, in any economy, the first thing you should ask yourself is, what do I have? What am I producing, so that I can be able to talk of market? Because the moment you talk of market, you must be talking about what are you producing. Now, when we go back to history, as you put it, like when you look at the economy of Western Province, essentially we were producers, because we are producing then what the country needed. We are producing maize, we are producing cassava, we are producing sorghum, we are producing almost everything. So where did it go wrong? That now, as we talk about the economy of Western Province, we in fact, we are literally importers. Do you know that when you look at the statistics now, Bungoma and Busia and Kakamega and Vihiga cannot feed itself. They have to import basics, like maize, for instance. So when you look at it from that point of view, then you realize that we lost it the moment we lost something to contribute to the national economy.
Aha. Dear viewer, this conversation is interesting in a manner because it touches on what to do on a daily basis. I want to invite you to follow us on our social media, WestTV_Kenya on X, Facebook, and YouTube. I'm sure we are live, YouTube live. You can be able to follow this conversation and send in your questions. On behalf of my director, Kevin Kibet, this is CKS. Let's begin the conversation, Richard.
Okay.
And we're going to begin with a very interesting proverb.
Okay.
Before you slaughter chicken to a guest, you have to examine that guest. How do you make that?
Yeah. Now that is purely from an economic sense. You know?
Okay.
Yeah. And the economy being, why would I take my best jogo and slaughter it to somebody who has nothing to offer in return? By the way, that's basics. You know, that's an economic perspective of the whole game. In our traditions, it doesn't matter, because you see, when the moment you make up a decision to slaughter chicken, the idea should be that you want to please that guest and you're not expecting anything in return. And precisely that is what is ailing us. So I like that, but when now we put it in context of the daily life, what that saying is this: what do you have to offer in exchange for whatever I'm giving you? And that's a concept of modern market. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, you see, the whole region drives on agri-based economy. Okay. You just talked about us importing everything. Okay, not everything, but most of what we eat.
Yeah, right.
Okay. We are largely an ugali eating community.
Precise.
What is this? Why is it so hard that we cannot produce enough ugali to feed ourselves?
Right. We go back to where we started. What factors were at that time, say 1960, 70, what factors were there that enabled us to be able to be producers? When you look at those factors, one of them was land. The land that we had in 1963-70 has been fragmented right now into so many pieces of plots. It's no longer sustainable for agri-farming. That's one point. Number two, to sustain that kind of production, there are certain things you must put in play. One of the key things that really kind of devastated us from that path is politics. Remember in 1980, when you start from 1980, 81, 82, 83, then when we had this Moi era, there are drastic changes that were brought that actually affected us directly. One of them was the thing of the issue of KFA, the issue of National Cereals Produce Board, the issue of, so in total it was the issue of market. So you see, what happened is that the political climate at that time was not interested in us sustaining the agricultural production because we were anti-government then. Now, so many other things have come into play. We also have big boys in the market of agriculture.
Wait.
Yes.
You said we were anti-government.
Yes.
What does that mean? As in
the opposition.
We were in the opposition.
We were in the opposition.
So when we were in the opposition, we could not sell our cereals to the nation?
I'm explaining. You know, production is also controlled by regulations that are national and also market. Now, around that period of time, that's what I'm trying to tell you, around that period of time, 1982, 83, 84, that time, a number of factors came into play. Key among them was that we had very stringent controls by things like, we had very good credit facilities that were coming from KFA, that were coming from, I don't know if then we had this, we had farmer-friendly loaning systems that were in place. For instance, you would go and take your maize to the cereal board, right? Be paid something as you wait, and then you'll be able to plant, use the same money to plant, and the system was going on. Then suddenly, all those I would call them incentives were stopped. So since they were stopped, and we're talking about things like KFA, cereal board, all those things we put together. Because me, I remember, like, I went to school because of cereal board. Because sugarcane had not come at that time. All you needed to do was you would have like 10 bags of maize you take to cereal board, and then they'll pay you some advance. Then you use that advance to even pay school fees. You would even use it to buy a bolea. Now, the moment you touch cereal board, KFA, that time, in history. You know,
you are aiming
at crippling the production capacity of the farmers. That is one thing. Two, like I said, we had this issue of fragmentation. You know, we ventured into speculation on land, especially in Western Province. So we cut down the small holdings into smaller bits. So that made farming non-sustainable. And then also on top of that, the big boys in the trade, in agriculture, came in. Remember, in those times you're talking about the Bakuka Befevu and all that group, we had a very clear way of markets. In fact, most of these Indians in Bungoma at that time, like the Kanjis and so on, made their money from being the sellers of the maize from Bungoma. This is historical, you can check all over. You remember, like even around this railway station, we had big stores, and those stores were controlled by the Indians there. So what they used to do, they used to buy the maize from the farmers and then sell to cereal board, just across the road. You see how they used to make it. Now, the big boys realize that this region is producing a lot in terms of produce, maize, sorghum, name it. So they realized they have to cripple it, just the way they've done with these sugar industries and so on. Because you see, the moment you allow a producer to produce so much, then you are simply allowing him to have control of the price. So what they used to do, they would come in, literally, and buy this maize at a very cheap price, when it's still, even some of it, when it's still on the farm and so on and so on. In the process, without realizing it, by the time you realize what has happened, you don't even have money to buy the fertilizer. It's no longer possible to sustain that agriculture because you sold it at a very low price, so you can't be able to sustain it. So you see, these are some of the factors that killed our production line from those early years to the present day.
And it has persisted to today.
It has become worse.
Today, what we are lacking is ways of finding ourselves or stabilizing ourselves again to become
both producers and market competitive. You see, now you can look at it this way. You have cut down that plot into 1 acre, right? Because of the population now.
Yes.
Then two, because of the overuse of the land and lack of the adequate fertilizer, blah, 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 you end up even now producing like 3 bags of maize on one small piece. Then the same market is still controlled by the big boys, who simply come and buy the maize or whatever it is at 30 shillings a korokoro. Then before you realize, because of now, poverty adds poverty to poverty. So before you realize it now, you are no longer even able to farm that small 1 acre.
Okay, now, if that is as bad as it is, where are people getting money to feed themselves? Because there is money circulating around.
This is now where when you say there's money circulating around, I don't think you are in touch with what is really happening.
No. You see, it's not as bad as you think, because people are working, people are paying for the borders, people are using, people are going to the shops. You see, if you go to the shops in the villages, people are buying stuff. Where are they getting the money?
Right. Now, this is what people should understand, especially about the Western economy. One of the basic principles that we inherited and has sustained us up to now is, so long as we put it in vernacular and say, those are the 3 fundamental principles. Now, what has sustained us, actually, as you are saying, is the emphasis on what can you eat, what can you be healthy, and can you wake up and face tomorrow. Anything outside that bracket. So what you see, by the way, on our markets, and I want to test you on this. You go on a big market, what we call a big market day, like for example in Bukembe. You go there in the morning at 9, you will see 3 things. Number 1, there will be a lot of people on that market. That's a fact. Why? Because that is a day, market is also about meeting people and exchanging ideas. Number 2, you look at the number of people who are majority are the people who have brought things from outside. These are the people who have brought in the imports, the radios, the clothes, the makofulis, the whatever. Those are the people you will see when you look at that classification. The people who have come with the vehicles, the people who have come with merchandise that forms the majority of what they are calling market are those importees. The actual, now for us, the market now would be buying from those people. That's key. That's why you see a lot of population. People come there because the prices are cheap. You know, you get a shirt, 20 shillings, whatever. But the actual thing we are producing ourselves, what we are selling on that market are bananas, pawpaws, name it. And these are the same things we sell every day.
So when we sell this agri-produce,
Yes.
the fruits, the grains, whatever it is we're
Yes.
selling,
Yes.
who is buying?
This is now the issue. Us, we hope that those people who are coming to sell us those things buy, but they are not the ones who buy. We just retain the normal customers every day.
So we are the same ones who are buying.
We are the same ones who are buying, but those people hardly buy from us. What happens is that we only sustain our normal markets, which are the trailers that move from Uganda to Mombasa. Those are our daily customers. These are the people who come and buy bananas, put in the trucks. These are people who buy the onions, put in the trucks. But on what you call the market day, that is actually a day for us to go and buy imported goods. That's irony, by the way.
So you see, Bungoma County, of course, Trans Nzoia has Kiminini,
Yes.
and it has Kitale Town.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Bungoma has like 8 markets
Yes.
that are huge,
Yes.
led by Chwele and Kimilili.
Yes.
In Kakamega, we have Luanda,
Yes.
and we have Kakamega Town.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, in Vihiga, we have Mbale.
Yes.
That is
A major thing.
It's
a major
will not
thing.
be rival.
Yeah.
Okay.
True.
Now, you're saying that people who sell and move the bigger shilling on
Yes.
these markets,
Yes.
bring in goods from outside to sell to us.
To sell to us.
Then we are not as bad as you are saying. We must be having money.
This is
Because
the point.
how do we keep on attracting these people when there is no shilling in circulating?
You know, the qualification of having money is being above spending on essentials. It's important. If I have 200 shillings, and these 200 shillings, I'm going to use it to buy a pair of shoes for my child to go to school, put in food, I can be able to have that money because I'm buying the shoes and I'm also eating, isn't it? But that doesn't mean I have money. In the context of having money, you are supposed to have money that is surplus beyond the basic needs. So what you see in circulation, essentially, is what must be spent. So that's why I'm refusing the analogy, or not refusing aside, but that's why I get amused when you say that we have money. The people who have the money are now the people you see going to eat nyama choma. Now that's where if you want now to understand the shape of our economy. If you go in some economies like even Nyanza here and even Central Province, after those market incidences in the afternoon, you now see the number of people in nyama choma. You will now see the number of people in bars. That's when you tell that those people have money. But when you see more than 1,000 people of our people on the market between 8 and 11, then you realize you have a problem. Reason being, everybody wants to make a bargain. I have 200 shillings and I must buy in a shirt for my child. I must buy in something to eat. You see, so that's why you see these markets are filled. They are filled because people must make a bargain. If you want to tell if the economy is doing well now, in the afternoon after that market, now you go and look at the butcheries, you go and look at the bars, you go and look at those what we call the luxury joints, and see if people are there. They're not there. They finished with the market at between 10 and 2,
And they left.
and they left. So the dependence, you can therefore see the dependence we have on those markets is essentially that those markets are helping us save a shilling. But in the process, the person who is really benefiting is the importer. That importer who is bringing us those shoes, the padlocks, the whatever. Because he's buying nothing from us. I'm telling you. Immediately they finish selling those things, they go. If you see them come to buy from us, they don't come on market day. They come on days and they want to, like Warus, and they have lorries now. Or they want to buy that produce when they know that you are at lowest peak. They don't buy on market days. Yeah.
We have a border here.
Yes.
We need to be doing cross-border business.
Yes.
Who is selling what and when?
Okay. That's a challenge. And this is, like, if we go back to the basics, this is what we were saying from the word go. When you talk about market, you're supposed to be talking about 3 things. You're supposed to be talking about what do I have? What am I going to buy? Who are the people involved in that transaction that is enabling this now thing to happen? and then the government regulations. Now, you see, one of the key purpose of devolution would have been to enable locals do business. That's a fundamental purpose for devolution. Devolution was supposed to be an anchor to help people do business. After having identified problems like the ones I've just quoted to you, how do you change this favorable trade into a favorable trade for the locals? You see, how, for example, if you realize that our people are spending more money on importation, how do you now regulate the market so that you help our people also sell? That's the primary source purpose for the devolution. What happened, and this is where the story goes wrong, is that question of, say, inter-border trade. The border trade is controlled by the big boys again. It's not controlled by us. The big boys know that the for example, foodstuffs in Uganda are cheap, right? So they just go to Uganda using the transport capacities they have, take everything there and take it away. We are supposed to be enabled locally because that border is a good link to us, because this is our right. It's our right in terms of because we are the neighbors. So we are supposed to be the first top beneficiaries of the trade. But the regulations, my brother, you just go to Uganda here and say you want to buy a crate of eggs, 10 of them, cross the border, come here. We'll see what will happen. The regulations, even set up by the county itself, the regulations set up by the national government, the regulations, the controls around this trade are not favorable in any way to any local.
Well, those regulations are supposed to protect the local producers.
That's the idea.
But then it doesn't stop goods from flowing from the other side to this side.
Yeah.
And when they arrive, they are cheaper than ours.
You're right. Now, this is what I meant by lack of incentive. Why would you, for example, why would the eggs in Uganda be cheaper than us? Why would the maize in Uganda be cheaper than Bungoma? Why? Why would that status quo be like that when in actual sense these soils are more or less almost the same? It means there's something wrong. We are not putting the right emphasis on the right things, because ordinarily, perhaps you talk of things like milk. Milk is okay because milk goes with cattle and that kind of thing. But basic things like maize, surely why would a Korokoro maize be cheaper in Uganda than Bungoma? The reason is, like I told you, the amount of tax indirectly. What I mean by taxes is we're talking about fertilizer inputs, we're talking about many things. You know, farming is a whole industry. So it means there's something we are not doing right in our production, and this is the core point. Because this trend was not historical. When by the time we're talking about Kina Pascal Nabwane group, Bungoma was exporting maize all over. In fact, even Uganda was buying maize from Bungoma. This is a true story. This we're talking about by the time of Kina Pascal Nabwane.
That is the 50s.
The 60s, 60s, 70s, up to 70s.
You see, the history you want to borrow from,
yes,
was overtaken by the technology.
Right.
You see, what we know today is millions of miles ahead of what those guys knew.
Right.
They had land, but then culturally we had to subdivide this land to fit into our cultural requirements.
Yeah, right.
Okay?
Right.
Now, with that came huge levels of poverty.
Right.
But then, what the technology has not done is to check the poverty.
Right.
Is this poverty artificial or
real? Precise.
That's the question.
Yeah, and this is it. This is where we are saying we went wrong. We had a precedent which was very good in terms of what you have just quoted. Then we came up with this thing called subdivision and lack of designation of clear farming areas. You get the point? So eventually now the problem we have is one thing that would have been very clear from that time would have been the ones to regulate and say demarcation should not go beyond a certain level. Two, because or put it this way, you would have even designated certain areas to be meant for farming. That's a simple example. Two, look at even this thing called subsidy of fertilizer, like the one they are bringing now, a cereal board. Do you see the amount of infrastructure that would be required to make that fertilizer reach the farmer? Is a daydream. it's almost because every day you get a voucher and you go to the civil board here, my brother, you will arrive there at 8 in the morning. You are going to leave that place at 7 in the evening. You are looking for 3 bags of fertilizer. So the question is, this was meant to benefit the farm. Surely, what is difficult about making this fertilizer to be delivered on a market? What's difficult?
You see, you started by saying that you started by saying that we were in the opposition at that time.
Yes, 1980s.
But today we are not.
Precisely.
But before you respond to that,
Yes.
I want us to go to a rest.
Okay.
When we come back,
Yes.
dear viewer, when we come back,
Yes.
I want to use his own words to
Yes.
crucify him.
But I'm okay. I'm ready. I'm ready for that.
Just in a bit, we'll be back.
Okay. Aha. Mzuri. What's that?
Thank you. We are back. I'm so glad. Following the morning scope, this is coming to you live from Bungoma. Today we are just looking at the economic drivers of the region. But when we started, my guest talked about Bungoma as a community was in the opposition, and because of that, we suffered a lot of setbacks. And today, we are not in the opposition, and we are told that we are number 3 in the government. Why do we still have these teething problems? Why do we have these troubles accessing basics? And why do we still have the same problems we faced in the 80s? Chief.
Yeah, thank you.
I
get it.
I want to believe what you say.
Yeah, of course.
But then why do we still have the same problems?
Precise. It's a question of focus. You see, when you are in government, it means you are better placed if you put in requests to that government depending on your priorities. You see, so what are our priorities in this government now that we are in the government, right? What are our priorities? Have we put agriculture? Have we put poverty alleviation as a priority? Have we? You see, and this debate, even we had it last week with some friend of mine from Kakamega. He was saying, if you look at the number of educated girls and boys, Bungoma leads in the whole of Western in terms of university education and in terms of the whole education ratio per square kilometer. So you see, what is our priority in this government? Because priority means what do you really want? So unless you put those priorities 1, 2, 3, you wouldn't get it. Now, I'm saying this because when the president comes around, for instance, we got the stadium, that's a good thing. We had Matula Airport, that's a good thing. What have we really said about our agriculture and other economic drivers? What are we really pulling even under the table? Because you know, in government, you can also pull under the table.
Let me ask you, do our leaders, who are supposed to speak on behalf of the Western Kenya region, do they have a voice when they sit with the government?
You know,
do they have...
They have a voice, but I'm saying, what is their priority? Get my point. What's a priority? You know, I saw, like, an incident which I saw in Rift Valley, when the whole elite Kalenjin told the president that, look, for us, our interest here is maize, number 1. Forget about everything else, maize, milk. When you go to Central Province, by the way, they will tell you our biggest agitation is kahawa, maziwa, barabara. Bottom line. They have no business about this thing of employment. For them, that is the bottom line. And they talk about issues that affect every one of them. In Western Province, if we want to turn around this economy, we must also take such approach. For instance, what are we producing in Western Province? Sugarcane is one of them, but you can see how sugarcane has been messed up. We should look at this.
Whose mistake is it? Whose problem? Whose mistake is it that the sugar industry has been?
Sugarcane is a victim of many factors, my brother. One of them is absolute corruption. Another factor is the issue of importation of sugar. Sugarcane has, in fact, I don't even want to enter into sugarcane politics because that is one area which is so bundled up.
Yeah, but you see, we started by saying that the leadership doesn't know how to prioritize.
Right. They should focus on things that have greater impacts to the people of Western. And these basics are what, for instance, if you look at things like agriculture production, what are the key issues? How do we turn around this sector? This should be our priority. So, for example, when we meet the president, the issue about Western Province, Bungoma, would be, look, how do we get market for our produce? How do we put together, how do we get incentives from the government to make sure that we get a turnaround in our economy?
We need the government for us to identify a market for our produce, or we can find the market ourselves.
No, but there are certain incentives which are given, my brother. There are certain incentives. You know, key among them is credit. And this is in fact our biggest undoing. Our biggest undoing in Western Province is that lack of access, where I have 3 bags of maize, but because I have my child who is going to school, I must sell that maize at a very cheap price because I must pay school fees. If I had a credit facility where I could put this maize, wait for the price to be right, but I get money to take my child to school.
You see, that's fine. But see, you are not satisfying me. You see, we form opinions based on, we form conclusions based on our personal opinions. For example, an opinion that we don't have access to credit. But when you look at the facts, that does not agree with the opinion we form. Why? Because as a community, we need to earn it. We are not given. Have we earned it?
Right, now I'll explain. I'll put it to you that we've earned it, but we have been let down. Let me give you an example. Do you know that 90% of the bananas you see here on this road, bananas, the warus you see from Mount Elgon here, all these things hardly benefit our people. Because the mama who is bringing 10 bananas on that road ends up going home with 2,000 shillings with 10 stacks of bananas, which are being taken by somebody who is going to sell those bananas at 20k.
But that is not the problem.
I'm coming because you have to understand it from those basics to be able to understand the bigger picture. So you see, that's an example. Now what that tells you is that the biggest, and in the process it multiplies to many other things, isn't it? The maize, the blah blah blah. The sum total effect of that is that we are doing a lot of hard work, but we are getting very little in terms of outcome. That affects everything. It affects our poverty levels, it affects our planning, it affects our thinking, and that's why when somebody comes in an area, a politician, you run and he gives you 100 shillings and you take it. You don't question what he's going to do for you. So you see, you might think it's a small point, but it is a sum total of us as people. When you go to some communities, if you go there, the people put together their wall around a certain issue. You go to an area, they'll tell you, hapa, maji, ndio tunataka. Because we have 10 animals, we want water. They'll put their wall around that. So even if you're a politician and you're going to that area, my friend,
you must also respond to
that water issue. Even if you give them 100 shillings, they will even chase you away with it if you don't talk about the water. So you see, the collectivity of a common problem, get me? The collectivity of a common problem should form the basis on which we should now ask, bargain for from the national government.
Now, who should lead that?
This is what we are saying.
The leadership has failed.
The leadership
what is the alternative? And you see, you, the elite of the region, are in bed with the same leadership because you're not leading the community. Yes.
Now, this is partly true, partly not. Essentially, I don't want to go into the mathematics of politics of daily basis, but that's why I'm speaking my mind. I'm saying it's time, and I'll give you another example which I've been an advocate of. We have this thing called sites in Bungoma, this thing of Lumboka, Chetambe, and so on and so on. I've been a big agitator for us to be able to restore those sites for 2 reasons. One, there's the issue of economic gain, because that's tourism. Then number 2, there's also the issue of reinstituting a culture. You get it? My brother, part of the problem we have about the whole mobilization concept of our people towards common good is always controlled and negated by the leaders. It's true. Irrespective of, and this is why maybe the affirmative action now we need for our people is people should get organized around a common cause. If it's water, if it is animals, I mean production, what you call poultry, whatever, they should get organized around it in form of a cooperative or just in terms of numbers, form an agitation, and next time they see their leader, whether it's an MC or a member of parliament, they tell him, brother, if you don't give us the following things for this project, our business with you is done. So before we reach that consciousness, you see, that consciousness is already in some communities. That's why you see when you go to Luo Nyanza, my friend, as much as I tell you it's Raila who is leading the agitation, but also those people have certain basic control, certain walls of interest. You know, if you cross this line, my friend, we have no business with you.
Now, let's look at it this way. As a community, we have priorities or we don't have priorities. That's why we don't benefit from successive governments.
Right.
We've been in government since Raila.
Right.
No, since Kibaki.
Kibaki, yes.
We've been in government all along. We've had ministers. We have big boys.
Yes.
When they brought us the counties, actually they devolved the government.
Yes.
And they brought us the middle class here in our own community.
True.
We brush shoulders with them every day.
True.
Question is, the shilling that the middle class are enjoying or they're carrying around, what do they spend it on? Because if we don't have what they can buy,
it will be, and that's the point. It's like you are saying, you have a chicken that's laying eggs, for you. So you pick the eggs and eat them in the morning. Then you don't give the chicken what the food. That's what you are saying.
But then you see, for example, what is it that we have that can retain the shilling in Western Kenya? You see, we need to look at.
This is what I'm saying. One of the key responsibilities of the county government is to mobilize people into well thought out course of action. For example, if you realize that the cooperative movement is supposed to be a big economic driver, that's part of the job of the county government. It's supposed to say, look, people in Cheptais have 10 people in Cheptais are growing tomatoes, isn't it? So it is them to come in and intervene to sustain that growth of tomatoes and also secure market. It's not supposed to be any other way around. Because you see, like now the efforts are mostly on increasing production, isn't it? But not market. So what's the point? If you tell people that, look, like last year there was a bumper harvest in maize. But you know what happened? All that maize, the market, it was taken up by some other people. This year we might not have the same bumper harvest. But believe you me, the maize is not there. So we are likely to experience that same cycle of poverty over years. Yet, the tapping would be, and some of these things are basic, some of these things are very basic. What is difficult for you to simply take this maize, put it in a place, then be able to give these farmers vouchers to enable them move on and you sell this maize later?
That has been talked about, but the practicality of it is what has never come up so clearly, because someone will wonder, keeping my maize there and I'm hungry and my maize is there, as it that mathematics is not coming in. You see, if you take your maize, your entire harvest is 50 bags. You carry the 50 bags to a certain place you're talking about. Then I come back home, waiting for the market to appreciate for me to sell the maize. Of course, I'm carrying a voucher that I cannot use. How is that?
Whoever came up with that thing of saying voucher you can't use is crazy. I'm talking about, look, you put 50 million shillings aside, right? And you say this 50 million shillings is going to buy the produce from the farmers, those who are willing to sell during August, for instance, immediately after the harvest. You say we are going to buy maize. We are going to buy maize 1 million bags, because there are silos here which are empty, right? 50 million shillings you buy, say 1 million bags. I'm just giving an example from the farmer direct. Then you take in cereal body. Yeah. Then at the end of the day, the farmer is given, even if he's not given all his money, he's given a certain amount, which will enable him move on. Then when you sell the maize after say 4 months, it goes. And this is something that can be done through one major cooperative. It's not a big, some of these things, you know, part of what we inherited from the colonial government, and this is a stigma that is in an African mind, is the daredevil to break ice to unfamiliar territories. Nobody wants to think outside the box. See? And this is the biggest problem we have. And that's what we meant by technology. That's what, you see why we have this Gen Z thing. This Gen Z thing is saying, look, you guys, you are giving us the same thoughts year in, year out, and you expect different results. We are saying, no, can you think outside the box? We should think outside the box. And thinking outside the box means some of these things are worth taking a risk for. Because then, it is then and only then that we'll be able to break these jinx. Why has coffee never been a problem in Central Province? Why has it never been a problem in Central Province? It's because they went that approach. Then they don't, once you're a farmer of coffee, they know it's important, and they have controls to ensure that you take that coffee wherever it is, and they also have controls to ensure that you are comfortable to be sustained.
But then you see, coffee in Western Kenya doesn't really benefit locals the way it does.
This is the thing, because this is what I'm saying. In Western Province, we've left coffee management to a few cooperatives, and these cooperatives, if you look at their structures and you look at their capacity, you see, they cannot, for example, be able to carry out that kind of approach. They can't, for example, give a farmer money in good time, give him incentive so that they enable him to take his cow and wait comfortably. They can't. You see, and that's why in some parts of this world, people took it upon themselves, put themselves into organization, and then got support of their leaders. So that you don't play around with their coffee, they will kill you.
Who is controlling coffee in Western Kenya today?
It's left to the dogs. It's left to the dogs, I'm telling you.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's left to the dogs. And that's part of it. And you see, even sugarcane was headed that way. In fact, sugarcane has only been saved because of the entry of the private investors. Otherwise, it was also being left to the dogs, because you wouldn't look at the seriousness in which sugarcane, the impact it has on the economy of Western. Look at maize production, the importance, and many other things. Even this cotton, blah blah blah. Look at the importance of those things to the mwananchi. Even if you secured employment for one person in an area, and then 5,000 of those people can't put food on a table, my friend, it's nothing.
Counterproductive. Now, the idea is we, as the leadership of the region, have not represented our people well.
We have not taken, we have not put our priorities right. We have not said priority number one is this. Instead, we have been like, we operate on what is called an existing precedent. See what I'm saying? Because we are talking about education, those years and institutions, blah, blah. So we are just inheriting the same thing. We are saying now, okay, look, for us, let's get TTI, whatever. That's where the clamor is, which is okay. Because that's very positive, because Bungoma, by the way, is now doing very well in terms of that. But then, we have other priorities, which control, by the way, the larger majority of people in Bungoma. You move around to the shops in Bungoma, 3/4 of these markets, when there's no market day. You go to Dengue when there's no market day. Go to Mayanje when there's no market day. All this, you will find thousands of shops that are closed. What does that tell you?
Because there's
no activity. But on market days, the whole of that place is full. And it's full because we want to buy things that are being brought to us. Not that we are going to sell. No. We are not selling anything.
So we are net consumers.
We are net consumers. Zero producer. I mean, we produce, but zero. The whole market is skewed against us.
As like what we produce, we don't sell out.
We don't sell out, but
we import or we consume what has been brought from out.
From the little we get. Everything we get, we just spent on what has been brought from out.
But then that is, you see, in 2013,
yes.
That's last year.
Yes.
We had National Bureau of Statistics.
Yes.
It talked about this sector we are discussing,
yes,
being the largest employer.
Yes.
It's employing 80% of
yes.
Kenyans.
Yes.
Now, if the largest employer is behaving the way you are behaving,
yes,
then as a community we are doomed.
That's why you talked of. That's why the big question in the room is Western. Why is Western poor? With all this land and with all this production, why is the economy the way it is? Why do we have this culture of You have to wait for a member of parliament to appear in an area, and everybody queues like hell because they want 100. And by the way, don't joke around with it. They need that 100. They need it. I'm telling you, they need it, because from there straight away, you will see them go to a place to buy kaunga. You know, they need it
and eat for that day.
For that day.
Do we have a hope? As in, what is going to happen?
What we are doing now is okay. For instance, what we are talking, we know we are agitating. As we talk like this, we are also putting awareness. Essentially, it might be that our people must start organizing themselves into productive units and focus on those units, and then hold their leaders accountable on them. For example, if you can have 10 of you in an area and you have 10 animals, and that is your means of production, hold on to it. Say, tunataka, maybe, what do you call them? This, you want chicken feed, you want cattle feed, you want veterinary services. That should be your point, should be your calling call to your representative. Tell him, for us here, we are 200 people. My friend, for us to vote for you, you must bring us veterinary services for these animals. You get it? So your running point should be a production unit. It is not supposed to be, you know, like we are here, we are 20 of us here, so leave us something, hapana. And this is where we have gone wrong. The mobilization should be around a production unit, where if it is chicken we are rearing in an area, we should say we are 100 of us here and we have our chicken. So whoever wants our votes must make sure that he comes here and gives us veterinary services for our chicken, or gives us market for our chicken. You see, that way, once people get rallied around a production unit, my friend, it will make sense. Politics will make a lot of sense. Because then, even if you are an MC of that area or a member of parliament, you will be talking about helping those production units of your people, and not you telling them or simply occupying them with the handout. And that's how we can kill our poverty.
Whoa. Whoa. You see, we just coming to the end of the program, but then I want us to take home some points. That's just one. We need to prioritize well, right? We need to have what is ailing us to become our need, so that we can collectively
talk of it as a community.
Yes, and find interventions to come out of it.
Right.
I just want you to, just 1 minute, talk about this element of credit, because we said we are under, what is the word I'm looking for? We don't have equal access with everyone else. You see, credit worthiness comes from us. We have to earn it. We need to be trusted. Does it mean that as a community we cannot be trusted?
You see, there is debt which you can give somebody when you deliberately actually just put that person to jail. You see, if you find somebody at home who is doing nothing, then he tells you, lend me 5,000. Actually, even if you give him that money, you should know you are the one who is helping that person to be put in jail if you are going to recover. Credit, and if you go back historically to how credit was being handled, credit is not handled casually like this. Like you see, right now we have a lot of microfinance institutions who are giving credit to farmers in the name of farming. But you know what has happened for the past 2 years or so? 3/4 of those people are not paying. You see, they're not paying, by the way. I'm telling you the truth. In fact, most of these institutions, like we have had several of them, remember, they come, they give you fertilizer, they give you maize, they give you whatever. My friend, the interest they charge on that is almost double. So when you cultivate, say, in 1 acre, and they're asking you for 21,000 shillings, because they are saying they gave you 2 bags of maize, and those 2 bags of maize, seeds, 2 bags of fertilizer, 2 bags of seed, 2 bags of fertilizer. This fertilizer ordinarily will be like 3,000 shillings, but when it comes to paying them, it's going to be 6K, that's 12,000. The maize seed, the same, that's about 8,000. And then they will give you yaku top dress again. My friend, when you calculate that thing is coming to about 32,000. Then with our harvest here, you end up getting like 10 bags. The current market price for maize is 2,500. So before you say anything, you're already in deficit. You owe those people everything. So you are left with nothing. That kind of debt, my friend, is crippling. That's not the kind of debt I'm talking about. The kind of debt I'm talking about is like insurance in a way, in terms, you move with the farmer in steps. And this is supposed to come, is supposed to be an incentive from the county government. If the county government, for example, can give subsidy to people who can't, it gives them completely. Why can't it also have extension services? You see, credit is supposed to be given to somebody who you have worked with, you are building his capacity. It is not a way of offloading your money and problems. That's one. So we have neglected the agriculture sector. We have not taken it as a priority. Second point, all these efforts we put in agriculture, as a people, they are supposed to show by now. They are supposed to show. And to show, we are supposed to, when I passed to Matula because I stayed in Bukembe, and when you pass on that road, you just pass, you remember that big thing that was built there, I think it was for grain keeping or something. I look at such things, and then I look at the number of shops we have along the road, all over up to Kimilili, wherever. All these shops have cost millions of shillings of the people of Bungoma. And they are lying idle. Key agitation, whenever we have, say, government access, would be, let us look at ways in which we can be able to revitalize the agriculture sector and the trading sector. And that's not, people say that the culture of business in Bungoma is not there. I don't agree with that thing. I would say, there is no, the people who have ventured in those areas have nothing to show off. That's why it's died. But these are the key engine drivers of an economy. You can't tell me that we can live in a place where we don't have food, we don't have business, then you tell us we have an economy. We are just importers of everything.
It's 10 o'clock.
Yeah,
We've come to an end of the program.
Yeah.
I just want to borrow 1 minute from my director.
Okay.
Number one,
Yes.
What is the biggest economic driver of the region?
The
Just
biggest-
say this. What is it?
agriculture.
Number two.
Number two, it is education.
Number three.
Number three, it is the, what I would call the cultural spirit of Bukusu.
Do we have anything else we can add on that?
No, basically those are the key drivers. Those are the key drivers. Anything else is simply to benefit those people who are benefiting from the unfavorable balance of trade.
Well, we've come to the end of the program. It's been a very interesting conversation, and I want to trust that this conversation goes on. I'm going to invite you again. You come so that we talk about the other aspects which we didn't talk about. We have the mining industry, we have the transport sector, we have the commercial sector, we have tea sector. I'm told Nyao Tea Zone is putting a buffer along the mountain from south to north. That's a lot of tea. Where is that factory going to be located and stuff like that? So we're going to look at those things in the coming in the coming few weeks. Look ahead for a different conversation next week on Tuesday, starting 9 a.m. On behalf of my director, Kevin Kibet, please go on our social media, leave a comment, and subscribe and follow us. You can find me at Mr. Kitui on X and Kitui Hasimiti on Facebook. This is CKS.
Thank you. Thank you very much.